Hello YouTube, welcome to D20 Woodworking. I'm your host Jason, and today we are going over the top 10 Justice allies that are currently out for Marvel Champions as of recording this. Now, with that being said, let's take a quick look at the current allies that are out there. There's not many in the Justice category. There's not many there. So we're going to break down the top 10. This is basically what I'm seeing so far. This is all just my opinion, kind of who I play with, and some of my thoughts on that. So while this is my current top 10 ranking, a lot of this is going to move just as I explore more in the Justice landscape and, more with different characters and such. So let us dive right into our top 10 with number 10. And that is Agent Carlson. Now, Agent Carlson I really like as an ally. I think he's pretty solid. The big thing is a lot of times it tends to be that the preparation cards have to do with Black Widow, right? So his responsibility really helps with Black Widow. So if I'm playing a Black Widow deck, absolutely Agent Carlson's in there, and you can make an argument that he should be even higher up on that list if you play Black Widow a lot. If you use preparation cards with other heroes, maybe you can make a good argument for it, but I haven't yet, and maybe it's something I should try. But as of right now, I haven't done that, so that's why for me, Agent Carlson sits at number 10. Solid, like I said, solid all around. It's just his special ability is nothing great outside of Black Widow. Outside of Black Widow, I think it's a must-have. All right, number 9, we have Aros, one of the newer ones to the deck. So the only thing that kind of holds him back is the Science Resource ability. So what I mean by that is after you play Aros from your hand, confuse a minion for each Science Resource you use to pay for him. Now, if you have a bunch in your hand, this is great stuff, right? It works really well. You can confuse several minions, especially as some decks have tougher and tougher minions that are coming out. Cards like this are really good. I like that he has 2 thwart ability. I think that's fantastic. He's cheap. But if you don't have the science resources in your hand at that time, I feel like a part of him is lost, right? A part of him is lost. Now, maybe in the future, or maybe I should change my playstyle to putting in more science resources, right? Changing that around a bit, and that might be something I play with. But as of right now, Aros is good as a cheap ally. But that's my biggest gripe with him, is I haven't really figured out how to consistently and effectively make sure I get science resources, paying for at least one, right? So at least confuse one. All right, that's number 9. Let's jump down to number 8. SpiderMan. So SpiderMan, was in the core box. Oh no, Rise of Red Skull. He was pretty early on. And the biggest issue with Spider-Man is the 5 cost, right? Other than that, he is stupidly strong in my opinion. I mean, you play him from your hand and you move 3 per person threat from a side scheme, especially when you're facing certain villains. Actually, in the Rise of Red Skull box, side schemes were pretty big. But even, with recent releases, they're pretty big. So the fact that you can do in a solo game 3, then thwart for another 2, is huge. 4 life, huge. 2 attack, fantastic. The biggest issue with him really is just the 5 cost. It's kind of wiping out your entire hand. And now if you're really not worrying about damage that round, you're worrying about just like trying to remove as much threat as possible. It makes a lot of sense. 5 isn't that much to pay for, especially in the long run. But that upfront cost, it's really hard for me to kind of justify him on that. So anyway, that is Spider-Man. So next up, we have Daredevil. So the thing with Daredevil is I like him. He's a little expensive, but the idea of, okay, use him as a thwart and he deals the damage, I think is really cool. Right? I think that's a nice way to do small incremental damage, which I'm becoming more and more a fan of, because there are so many ways that things get tough, or a minion has like a life where you have to like chip off that damage, and then then you can actually attack the villain. So I think small damage outside of your hero is a great way to play the game, and the ability for Daredevil to do that pretty easily is great. So I'm a fan of Daredevil. Again, his high cost, lower life, not low life, but lower life, holds him back just a little bit, but not a ton. So that makes him number 7. So number 7 ally for me is Daredevil. Okay, so number 6 is Quasar. Not sure if I'm saying that right. 3 costs. And again, this is a situation where if you're playing certain cards from the Justice deck that, you know, bring side schemes out there for you, it's nice if you can clear a bunch of those side schemes at once, or, you know, help clear them down. I shouldn't say completely clear them, but help clear them down. I think this is a great option. You know, if there's the main scheme, 2-3 side schemes out there for 3 cost, that's getting pretty worth it, especially for 2 attack, which is a little bit higher for a Justice ally at that price point. So I like Quasar. I haven't used him a ton yet, but I do like him. I think he's enjoyable. I want to find different ways to play him. I want to see now, especially like I said, with cards that help bring out more of the side schemes. I think his value will continue to increase, and I think it will continue to be a more or less a better and better card. So, that is number 6. Okay, so now we're hitting the top 5. And number 5 is speed. I like speed, and it took me for a while. It took me a while to really get into him because, again, early on in the game, for some reason, I had a hard time justifying 4-cost allies because I used them too much as a shield. The fact that you can go out there with this card and thwart twice in a row because you can ready him, right? So you can do 2 and then another 2 is really useful. Then again, you can do another 2 and then another 2 if you choose. So being able to do 8 in 2 rounds is kind of nice. It's nice to be able to do that quickly and that back-to-back, or you do it 6 over 2 rounds and use them as a blocker as the final round. So I think there's different options, which is pretty cool. But my biggest gripe with him in the beginning was just his cost, but as I play him more and more, I realized the versatility and the importance of him, and he's really starting to kind of get into my decks more and more. So that's speed we have. All right, Venom. Venom, I like I said, I really like Venom. As my number 4. I think in solo he works really well, and that's why he's pretty high up on this list. On multiplayer, I don't know if he works as well, and the reason being is because if there's no threat in the main scheme, reduce all consequential damage Venom takes by 1, which is huge then, right? For 4 cost, he does 2 thwart and 3 damage with 4 life. That's really powerful, really strong. He's doing a lot there. On solo, I feel like I can control the main board pretty well. I can control the main scheme to keep it down at 0 if I really wanted to. When it comes to multiplayer, I mean, obviously it can be done, but I think it's just tougher. I feel like this is a card meant for solo. I feel like as I keep playing with him in solo, he makes more and more sense, and he becomes pretty much a big threat. You know, a big attacker, a big thwart remover or threat remover in my deck for Justice. I mean, he's really all around good. 4 life is super strong. I mean, the fact that I can get basically 9 damage and then a block out of him, it's kind of huge. So I'm a big fan of Venom, but for solo, right? For multiplayer, I don't think he's as strong. He probably gets bumped down a lot, but for solo, I think he makes a lot of sense. So he is number 4, and I honestly, I think he's going to move up in the list moving forward. All right, number 3, Wiccan. So Wiccan, after he thwarts, you discard the top card in the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, deal 1 damage to enemy. Now, as everyone knows, every time you play this, of course, you'll discard a card with 0 boost icons, right? That's just how it is. But on paper, this should be a great card, especially as it seems some of the harder villains, they're averaging high 2s, low 3s boost icons, or I'm sorry, high 2 boost icons. And, you know, we're seeing some villains now with 4 boost icons. To me, he gets more valuable then. Now, obviously, there's a chance where you draw a encounter card and there's nothing on it and it's kind of a waste. That happens to all of us. It happens a lot. But overall, especially against harder villains, I think he makes a lot of sense. I think it's pretty cheap for 2 costs, and the chance to do 1 thwart and like 3 attack, I think is kind of huge. And you get essentially at least 2 shots at it, and then you can block with them, right? Or you could do all 3. I think just the ability to be able to do that is kind of key. And even if you are getting rid of cards that are 0 boost icon cards, a lot of times they tend to be like advance or something like that, which is a card you want to get rid of anyway. So it's not always a bad thing. I think the fact that it's random kind of like worries a lot of people, and it worries me too every time I play him. But even so, I'm never truly really upset when I draw the encounter card to do the boost damage. So because of that, he's still ending up in my deck every single time. So I'm a fan of the Wiccan. I don't see him going anywhere. I think he'll remain top 3 unless something really crazy happens. So All right, number 2 is a newcomer with Wraith. This was one of those cards where I didn't get it, I guess is the best way to put it, until more and more boost cards came out with effects that really kind of hamper you, right? So he says, when a boost card is turned face up, exhaust Wraith and deal 1 damage to him, cancel that card's boost effect. Again, when I first saw that, I was like, well, you know, there's not really that many boost cards that I could think of off the top of my head. And then I started playing more and more and more. And when you start looking for it, right, you see how many times that, oh, okay, the little star comes out and it's something that really messes you up, right? It does status effects changes, you know, it does an extra attack, whatever it is. When stuff like that started popping up more and more, I realized the value of Wraith, and I was too often just thinking of him as like, well, he could do a 3 attack and basic block for a 3 cost, which to me wasn't worth it for those stats. But just keeping him around in the background as a way to check boost cards, right? Make sure that the boost card I'm getting is not super terrible. Really was kind of helpful, I think, to realize that. So he's number 2. I think he'll stay up there, but it'll be interesting to see. He went up really fast in my ranking. I'm not gonna lie, he went up super fast after I started like really focusing on him. So I don't know if he'll kind of plummet, and I've kind of overranked him because I had some games where he came in clutch. So I might have overranked him. He might drop down a bit, but so far I'm pretty happy with him up there. And then finally, number 1 is Quake. I still think Quake is solid because minions always seem to be prevalent. In the Justice deck, they always seem to kind of like stick around and they get kind of annoying. So after a minion schemes, exhaust Quake, deal 2 damage to that minion, especially when you're playing against weaker minions. I think this makes a lot of sense. Like, it can easily knock them out pretty quick without taking the consequential damage, right? That's the key, right? With the 2 damage, you're not taking consequential damage, and the minion's only scheming for 1. It's a decent trade-off. Now, with that being said, I think as minions get more and more life, this becomes worth a little bit less and less over time. Her only having 2 health kind of holds her back a little bit because there's more cards coming out there that just do incidental damage or just hits all characters or something like that that could knock her out pretty easily. So I think in time she's going to keep dropping for me, but when I first saw her, I was pretty pumped with her because, again, with my Justice deck, I play Justice so I can flip my hero a lot. I spend time in that alter ego side, so the minions are scheming a fair amount, and now I can do basically 2 damage over and over and over with an exhaustion without actually taking any consequential damage. Is pretty huge. But I do think Quake is going to fall down this list. I don't think she's going to stay up there. Like I said, I think she'll go down, but we'll see. We'll see what other allies keep coming out and what kind of minions are coming out in the future. I think that's going to dictate a lot of this. So that is my top 10 Justice allies. If you made this far, make sure to put in the comments what your thoughts are. Who's in your top 10? Who do you like? What do you agree and disagree with me about? And what would you like to see in other Justice allies? I think this is a weird space that hasn't been explored too much yet. I think Justice has the fewest amount of allies, if I remember correctly. So it's something that I look forward to them doing a lot more with. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment. Take care. All right. Thank you.